Yes, well, I get asked a lot about the process of lean because it's not very well explained within the CIPS literature. If you're studying for your CIPS exams, then you'll find that the concept of lean is introduced in level 4, it's built upon in level 5, and you absolutely have to know it at level 6. And so it's one of these repetitive areas within the syllabus that is built upon as you work your way up the levels. And really, you need to understand it correctly in its fullness, and I'm afraid it's not taught well and it's not written about well within the CIPS study guides. Lean is not about the elimination of waste. This is an incorrect approach towards lean, nor is it about finding greater efficiency. So all of the textbooks and the study guides that talk about this have not picked up on the correct concept. Lean is all about value, delivering value to the customer. And by value, we're talking about a concept that the customer is willing to pay for. If they're not willing to pay for something, they don't value it. So there is a correlation between a customer willing to pay for something and the amount of value that they attribute to that product. Now we apply that into procurement and supply by looking at the supply chain. Suppliers work together to transform raw materials and products and components into finished goods, and customers are willing to pay for those. The price that they're willing to pay represents the value. And so if we go back into the literature about lean, you have to start with the work that James Womack and Dan Jones undertook back in the 1990s. Now their breakthrough book was in 1995. It's called Lean Thinking, and they introduced 5 principles about lean. The first principle was about identifying value. They talk about the customer. They say value is what the customer values, and if they value it, therefore it's value. Now, inherent with that, obviously, if a customer doesn't value something, then it's of not any worth, it is therefore wasteful. But lean is not about the elimination of waste. The second principle that Womack and Jones talk about is about the value stream. And we talk in the area of lean about mapping the value stream, which means identifying the process, all of the activities that need to link together that create value for the customer in terms of whatever the end product or service is for them. Now we can start to consider, well, if those are the activities that add value, we need to get rid of anything that doesn't add value. And this is where the confusion lies. So anything that doesn't add value is referred to as waste. It simply doesn't add value, therefore it's wasteful. But you cannot eliminate all waste. There are 2 types of waste. Type 1 waste is non-value adding, but it's considered to be necessary. So you take, for example, a safety test or some kind of audit regime that is a necessary part of a product or a service being delivered. The customer doesn't really want to pay for this, but it is a regulatory requirement. So the concept with type 1 waste is it doesn't add value, it's necessary, let's just keep this to a minimum. So you minimize type 1 waste. The other type of waste is type 2 waste. This is non-value adding activities that simply aren't wanted and are not necessary. So this type of waste you can eliminate. You think of the typical average smartphone, it comes with a lot of preloaded software and apps, much of which end consumers don't want. Somebody has gone through the process of innovating and adding those, and that obviously incurs cost. But if the customer doesn't use them or doesn't want them, then it's of no value to them. It's simply adding cost. The concept of lean, it applied to type 2 waste, is you eliminate that form of waste. So we go back to the principles of lean introduced by Womack and Jones. The first one is identify value. The second one is to link together the value stream. And we have therefore reduced and eliminated as much waste as possible. So that leads then on to the third principle of lean, which is all about the flow, making sure that there's a process of uninterrupted flow through the chain of activities, which for procurement and supply is obviously the supply chain, but it could also include internal processes in an organisation. The fourth principle of lean is about pull, and therefore it's the customer demand at the top end of the process, which is drawing upon the process, and in our case in procurement and supply, the supply chain, so that we don't get overstocking or the additional inventory requirements. There is this steady stream and pull of requirement from the customer. And then having this high value, low waste, steady pulled process, we then go to start to look back at the process and see how we can improve upon it. And Wermack and Jones talked about the fifth principle of lean, and that is about pursuing perfection, always improving, building on continuous improvement, and so that we can make the delivery of the product better and better. And that, in a nutshell, is lean.